For 40 years, the Collier Community Foundation has helped transform moments of generosity into movements of change. Each decade has told a story of vision, compassion, and a belief that together we can make life better for all who call Collier County home. Let's take a look back at how far we've come. 40 years ago, the very first grant from the Community Foundation wasn't for bricks or mortar. It was for music, community, and joy. A gift that created the Cambier Park Bandshell.
Well, the first grant, we were very happy with it. The first grant was really for the bandshell down in the park in Cambier Park, and it was $1,000.
Well, I would say that it was just exhilarating. It was a real adrenaline rush. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The acoustics there are really quite good, in some ways better than a number of other places I've conducted. The sound system, which makes it, I think, even a better thing for our audience.
Sometimes when I see what's going on now, when I read the annual report, when I go to events, it's just astonishing to me how much the Community Foundation contributes to this community. And I know a couple of times I've brought in friends to events, and they walk out saying, I had no idea.
The first $1,000 grant gave Naples not just a stage, but a heartbeat, a symbol of what generosity could build.
We opened with a very well-known piece called Fanfare for the Common Man by Aaron Copland. And then I remember we closed with the 1812 Overture. The Naples Police Department sent over some of their officers with their rifles, and they fired off volleys of shots to simulate the cannon shots at the end of the overture. And it was funny because it set off so many car alarms. They were beeping all over the place.
From a bare concrete pad to a world-class shell, philanthropy made it possible. And 40 years later, the music still plays on. As the music of community began to play, new needs came into focus. Families in crisis, mothers seeking safety, a community ready to open its heart and its doors. In the mid-1980s, a single grant planted the seed for a place of refuge Collier County desperately needed.
So the first grant that we ever received from the Community Foundation was a grant back in 1986 to help fund the new shelter.
But even the idea of a domestic violence shelter faced resistance.
At that time, in 1986, the shelter did not receive the blessing of the Board of County Commissioners to have a shelter, a domestic violence center here in Collier County. But in year 2, the Community Foundation stepped up again and gave another $4,000 grant to the shelter to be able to house victims of domestic violence here in Collier County.
For Linda, the mission soon became personal.
I brought my daughter when she was in middle school here to the shelter to visit our pet kennel. And when we walked into the kennel, there was a survivor, a victim of domestic violence who she had like a plum-sized bruise on her eye that had been swollen up. And she had the tiniest little dog, and that dog crawled on its stomach all the way over to my daughter. And so you could tell that the dog had been as traumatized as the woman sitting in that chair. So at that point, we had a conversation with her, and then we went outside to the car. And when we got in the car, my daughter looked at me and said, I finally understand, after all these years, what it is that you do when you go to work every day. So, yeah, that was a good moment.
That same compassion would inspire decades of progress.
So the first shelter, we opened it in 1989, and it was a fourplex, and so it was a 20-bed apartment, and within a fairly short amount of time, we had really outgrown that shelter, literally turning away more people than we were serving. And so at that point, we knew we needed to triple our capacity is what we did, and that would have happened in 2001.
Early on, not everyone was ready to accept the shelter.
So having the support of the Community Foundation Early on, when we were trying to establish a domestic violence center here in Collier County, helped community members to get behind us in establishing a safe shelter for victims of domestic violence.
From a 20-bed fourplex to a county-wide network of safety, the shelter's growth mirrors the power of philanthropy itself. How one gift, even with heart, can transform a community. From protecting people to protecting the place we call home, philanthropy turned its vision outward, restoring the waters and wildlife that define our way of life. Sometimes the boldest ideas are born from frustration. What if there were no fish left to catch? What if a coastline lost its heartbeat?
I was approached by Peter Flood. He was complaining about how when he went out into the Gulf that he would spend hundreds of dollars on fuel, bait, boat payments, and would never catch any fish. And so he asked me if I would help him co-chair a project to build reefs off our coastline. People come to Naples, sure, they come for great restaurants and friendly people, but what draws them to Naples is the beaches and the water. So if they can do activities on the Gulf, like going fishing, like going diving, then they're gonna be more likely to come here. The bait shops, the tackle shops, the boat dealers, the charter fishermen. If there's no fish to catch, all of those businesses suffer. So we needed an organization that was respected by the community, that was credible, that was transparent, and the Community Foundation was just that organization.
The Paradise Reef Project became one of the largest reef systems in the Western Hemisphere. A home for fish, a lifeline for businesses, a legacy for our community.
People didn't believe it could be done. I mean, you're talking about building a reef system. You're not going to use any taxpayers' funds to make it happen. You're going to figure out how to do a contract, write bids, collect the material, get the material deployed, get the word out, collect enough donor funds to make it happen. So skepticism was probably the biggest hurdle. How we overcame that was not only the presentations that we did, but the little wins. As people began to see the little wins, and sometimes the big wins, they realized it really was going to happen. I will tell you that I believe that this project would have never taken place had it not been for the Collier Community Foundation.
Innovation, stewardship, community. What began as a conversation has grown into a reef that will sustain life and livelihoods for generations. With each decade, giving took flight, empowering students, building careers, and creating opportunities that will carry our community forward for generations. Philanthropy doesn't just answer today's needs, it prepares the next generation for tomorrow's skies.
Lorenzo Walker has had the Aviation, Airframe, and Power Plant Mechanics program since 2000, and much of the equipment and technology to teach the program up until the support from the Collier Community Foundation was the same. So essentially for a couple of decades, we had, for the most part, the same equipment that we were educating students on.
The ripple effect is clear, from classrooms to airports, from dreams to careers. And investment today takes flight into tomorrow's opportunities.
The program, prior to the support from the Collier Community Foundation, we had under 10 students, and we had one full-time instructor. We're now currently serving, over 80 students. And we have 3 full-time instructors and a part-time instructor. Thanks to the Collier Community Foundation, we were able to significantly upgrade our instructional equipment for our Aviation, Airframe, and Power Plant Mechanics program. And that upgrade consists in the form of primarily a plane, and secondly, they supported us in acquiring a helicopter. If that's not enough, they've also supported us in acquiring some turbine engines and some reciprocating engines for our students. So significant increase. So Eileen and the intellectual property she developed with local partners helped us to identify even what type of helicopter or what type of plane or what type of equipment that we might need. So she's definitely been an important partner.
This country is built on philanthropy, built on volunteerism. So, why not just continue that through to the next generation?
This is what 40 years of giving makes possible. From music to safety, from reefs to runways, philanthropy powers the future. From a single grant to a symphony of giving, the last 40 years have shown what's possible when compassion meets action. We've helped build stages, shelters, reefs, and runways, each one a symbol of what generosity can do. And as we look to the decades ahead, one truth endures. When we come together, donors, nonprofits, neighbors, and friends, there's no limit to the difference we can make. This is the power of community. This is the legacy of 40 years and the promise of a bright future.